yourself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Rates, three Amigos, Friday night. Me, Keith has joined us again, Mitch and Steve Hasty, and 2 hours of your usual Friday night crack to get ready for the weekend. Look forward to it. And I'm going to start off with something completely different tonight, lads. We'll get often questions sent, and I tend to say yes at the start of the week. If the send is at the start of the week, yeah, I'll definitely ask it, and then I forget to ask it. So I'm going to go with these two questions to start tonight's show. First one from Wayne Bennett. He says, hi, lads. I hope you're well. I've got a question for Friday's show. If you can ask it, because I can't watch live. Would any of you take 17th place next season but win a cup? Mitch?
Ooh. I suppose we could, beggars can't be choosers, can they? If you're saying we'll definitely stay up, and we can stay up with no drama and win a cup, I would. I would. Because I think it would be beneficial for the plans of the owners to actually say, hey, we've won something. Here we are, year one. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be spun in so many ways. So, yeah, in a nutshell, yeah, I think I would.
Okay, that's a simple answer. Steve, would you agree?
I would actually, because if it got the monkey off my back of not winning anything for God knows how many years, I'm starting to lose count. It's not dementia that I'm suffering from; it's just the ability to not count back. So, quite honestly, it would. I would if it took the monkey off my back, and like as Mitch says, guarantee us no drama, guarantee Premier League survival, and we're sitting there with the FA Cup. Yeah, go for it. And hey, I tell you what a laugh it would be if it happened the same year as the Premier League announced that the FA Cup winners went into the Champions League.
What a thought. Keith, your take on that one? 17th place and winning a cup, would you take that?
Without a doubt. I'd book the hotel now, and then like nothing else would matter. I'd just laugh all the way through next year. And I'd take the League Cup, eh? I'd take anything. I nearly was into the Texaco Cup. I just to see us win something again. Just to see someone win something again, and I don't know, just put the first one in the bag. I always think the first one's the hardest, and I think when Man City came back up, I think they went after a lot of decent players, but they didn't seem to sign the big player for a while, and I think they seemed to struggle. It took them a few years, so I think they'll compare us with them. I think it's a tougher league now than when they came and got the money. I just think that Newcastle winning silverware, it's just balmy, isn't it? It's going to happen, but it's just our first one. Crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll say as well, 17th place and winning a cup would be great. I just don't think I could deal with all the fallout and all the grief and stuff that would be going on social media over the course of a season that sees us battling relegation with all the money in the world. So I get your question, Wayne, but I'd rather just park the stress for a while, mate. I'd rather finish consistently in the top 8 and win a cup when we're going to win a cup. And just concentrate on enjoying winning football matches home and away. So I get your sentiment. I know where you want, but we've had to wait 50 plus years to win a trophy. Another couple of years wouldn't really upset me. I'd rather concentrate on consolidating my position in the Premier League and becoming a real force again. So I want it built on concrete, not on sand. Right. The next question I got was from Dylan Lynch Parsons, again on Facebook. He says, hi, lads. With a lot of left wingers being rumoured to Newcastle, would you think ASM would be more suited on the right, especially with Trippier behind him? I think Trippier will be able to bring the best out of ASM as a team player, defensively and in an attacking sense. So, Mitch, interesting. One of my mates, who's a Tottenham fan, has been suggesting to me all week that ASM should go down there, and he'd like to see him played on the right, down at Tottenham. So it's not the it's not only our fans that are thinking in that kind of way. What's your take on that?
I think the way to get the best out of ASN, if he's going to stay, is put better players around him and make him earn his place in the team, be that on the left or the right. And then we'll see what we get out. I get what they're saying about him being on the right. Will it stop him from cutting in and doing all the step overs and things like that? No, don't think it will. I think he did his fancy dance against Crystal Palace on the right-hand side, if I remember rightly. So that's something that I think there's possibly some thinking in terms of, because he likes to cut in. But when he does cut in, that's when he does have shots on goal on occasion and create a bit of havoc. Whatever we do with him, we'll have to take into account that in certain aspects, in certain games, he's always going to be a passenger. And so we need to get the best out of him some way. And I think the best way to get something out of him is to have better players around him and make him fight for his place in the side.
Okay, Steve, what's your take on that one?
I've yet to decide whether he's a left winger or a right winger, to be perfectly honest, and whether he's left-footed or right-footed, because he's an enigma. He's one of those players that goes somewhere on the pitch that he just wants to go. I don't think there's any leash on him at all. I think the leash has been let off many, many times over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And yeah, I think if he gets in position to take a shot, he'll take a shot, whether it's his left foot or his right foot. As Mitch says, he cuts in from the left, he cuts in from the right. We've seen at various times during the season alternate between the left side and the right side. We've seen Eddie Howe send signals over and getting them to swap with Almiron, this type of thing. And I just think he's one of those players that you can't pigeonhole him to a particular position. I think it's just the nature and the style of his play. You know, I mean, you think of the goals he scored against Burnley when he went clean through down the middle. You know, yet again, a player with the pace and with a head that looks up and realizes when there's a goal-scoring opportunity to take that opportunity, as opposed to just carrying on, or as we've always. The main criticism being that he doesn't look up at the right time to play the right pass to somebody. But maybe if he stays, it's something we're going to have to get used to, especially me, you know, because I have been one of his biggest critics at times. But I think that having been in the minority as a critic, I suddenly end up with being in the majority as the season went on, as people started to see the better players around him coming in and coming to the fore and putting performances in and scoring goals, the likes of Bruno, for example. And maybe Mitch is right. Maybe he's with a quality player like Bruno and other quality players. That's what he needs. It's the incentive. He wants to be the best. And if he's in a team with better players, he'll want to raise his game to prove to them that he is better than them. That's the sort of bloke that he appears to be, the sort of footballer and the sort of personality. And hey, if Eddie Howe can get the best out of him, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But it's blending that 11, isn't it? It's getting the formation, it's blending the 11, and really getting the best out of ASM at the same time. Lots of balls to be juggled there, but Eddie Howe, he's going to have to be the circus performer, isn't he, in the next season? Yeah,
rest in peace, Billy Bingham, 90 years of age, former Northern Ireland manager. Yes, quite a character, Billy Bingham, but it's a big loss to the Northern Irish contingent. I know we've got a few who watch from Northern Ireland on the panel and the show as well.
As well, of course, don't forget, I had over 200 appearances for Sunderland, and apparently quite a character, quite a man for the fun and games of the game. And I tell you what, that was some venture that he went on with the Northern Ireland squad when he took 2 consecutive World Cups. To take a small team like that, of what were ostensibly journeymen footballers, a lot of them, and to do it twice in a row, and you think that the Welsh have only just qualified now after 56 years. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, rest in peace to him. Let's look at the transfer situation. We got Mark Target in, Mitch, which was great. I think we ummed and ahed. We had rumours of potentially his wife not wanting to come, but good one to get through the door. Nice, solid signing. We're pretty much covered now at left full back. I think we've got options. We've got Jamal Lewis, who I still think anyhow will get the best out of. We've got Matt Target, who's your 7 out of 10, and in reserve you've got Paul Dummett on a new 1-year deal. So ultimately that left hand side's very, very, very solid, very defensive. So I think that's great. But the Botman and Ekitike transfers, Mainston says they're becoming a joke. Says I don't really think they want the move. Perhaps move on. They don't fill me with confidence for team spirit and commitment, as they appear to be dragging their heels. And I guess on top of that, the transfer window's just opened. We did see Ekitike as well go off yesterday. A couple of minutes into his game with what looks like a hamstring. We hope it's only 6 to 8 weeks out. Al Willie put his medical expertise out there yesterday and told people what you would be looking at depending on the seriousness of the injury. But yeah, what's your take on the whole Botman Ekitike thing? Are we just living in a social media world where fans are just expecting the impossible?
I think a little bit. It's not like going up and buying a second-hand Ford Fiesta,
Yeah.
These are complicated deals. Complicated further by the fact it's internationals ongoing. And a lot of these players are with their international squads, be that the full one or the under-21s or the under-23s or the under-20s. The logistics of getting them out of those camps and then in to talk and getting that people in and doing all of that. It's not like we're dragging them off the beach with a family. It is a little bit more complicated at the minute. The window's only just opened. I would expect to see no big movement until the middle of next week once all the internationals are out of the way. And then I think you'll see a lot of transfers suddenly rattle through. With regards to Ekitike, injuries happen. They're part of the game. They're sometimes sliding doors moments. What would have happened if Shearer hadn't got his ankle injury at Everton? Then what if he played with John Dal Thomason up front all season that season and they became a deadly striking partnership? You just never know, do you? Ekitike, him picking up that injury, for me, puts us more in the box seat in terms of negotiations if we're still interested in the player. My concern is we've got one striker who's had problems with his hamstrings. Here's another one who's missed a chunk of 2 seasons with hamstrings. And that's starting to sound like Kieran Dyer. So there's obviously something needs to be taken into account medically. And I'm sure that will be being looked at in the negotiations now. And I think it actually gives us an upper hand in terms of, well, maybe we can have less of an outlay and more incentives when he passes so many games, etc., etc. So I wouldn't get too distressed about it. I would trust the process. People sweating on Botman. Well, Botman's a young man. He's looking to move abroad. He's got 2 fantastic choices. Ready-made in AC Milan. It's good at Champions League history. And the young pretenders who can give him all we can say to him is, do you want to come on an exciting journey? Because that's effectively all we are saying. And he's got a family to think about, a young family at that. And also, I mean, you yourself, Steve, you've been an agent. His agent wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't trying to get the best deal for his client either.
Very true.
We've got to take all of this into account. We've got to trust the process. We keep saying on here that it's a bit like one of these sliding puzzles, and one door will shut and another will open. They'll go to plan A or they'll go to plan B, and then because plan C's worked out, then we don't need to think about D and E. Let's skip straight to F. This will all be being thought through. We've got Ashworth in place now, properly, fully, openly. He's already seemed to have made a difference around the club from what I'm hearing. And with regards to Botman, I would suggest to everybody out there, there have actually been face-to-face talks this week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's interesting. Steve, what's your take on this?
I've had poor Stu's life today. He's done more work for me than he has done for his employer today. Cross-checking a couple of different sources, but we understand that Botman's had face-to-face talks with people from Newcastle United very recently, and that would suggest to me we're in the box seat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Steve, your take.
Yeah, I was going to say, my sources told me, and then I was going to say, oh, hang on a minute, my source is Stu. So that would blow that one. But no, seriously, I mean, yeah, Mitch, you're absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on in terms of what you said there. there's another little dynamic. You mentioned there that there has been face-to-face talks. Often when you get to that situation, I imagine, and Steve, you'll be able to confirm this, like you say, as an agent, you get to that face-to-face point, and then you suddenly go, you know what, we don't like each other. We don't think you fit, or, I don't think I fit. You may have turned up thinking, yeah, I think this could be a good deal. But then when you meet the protagonists and you meet the people behind the scenes, you go, no, I don't actually fancy that now. I don't want to be dealing with people like that. But on the other extreme, you've also got the situation where you meet and you go, I like what I'm hearing. I like what they're saying. I think I can trust them. I think I can trust the process. I think I can understand the process that and the plans that they're putting in, and et cetera, et cetera. Mitch, you've got issues like holidays. You've got agents who are all over the place. You've got owners who are all over the place. You've got their own coaches. Like you say, they're on international duty, so you've got to get permission from the international managers to allow them to step out of the camp for a couple of weeks. Some of those camps might be still in some sort of COVID restriction. You just don't know. But it's just stay calm. Don't be fooled by what you read in the press. Don't be fooled by certain pressmen who are going against the other men, etc.
All the noise is coming from the Milan side of things, and it just reminds me totally of Inter Milan and Marseille getting wound up because PIF were buying us, and they were desperate to create a scenario where they were buying them. And it feels exactly the same. It feels like a lot of people in panic in Milan that they might miss out with that silly little club in the northeast of England.
Yeah.
And the other dynamic as well. I mean, I'll give you perfect example that I've had personally this week. Somebody come in for an interview and sitting having a chat, seemed to come across quite, quite amiable. And then at one point, one of his answers to one of the questions was, I don't feel like I need to answer that question. Okay, that would be the end of the interview, and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, son, And you could get a scenario like that where, Eddie Howe meets the lad and thinks, nah, he's a twat, get out.
Yeah.
And so all of these things could happen. And I think we just have to trust the process. We really do.
Yeah, and I think you also got to look at the whole situation. You look at AC Milan, and you think, right, well, they've just won the Serie A. Yes, they can offer Champions League football, but they can't actually offer them a guaranteed place because they've got a defence, a very tight defence. He's going to come into a 25 with no guarantee that he would be playing. Because let's face it, a team that, and you see the squad of players that they've got and the central defenders they've got and the versatility they've got within their defence, and you're thinking, oh, young lad, 21, where are you going to fit in? There are some really, really good footballers that you're going to have to try and oust here. Whereas you come to Newcastle, we're going to offer you almost guaranteed, because of the money we're paying, first team football. You're going to be playing in a top league, and you're going to be part of a process. So this is the coin he's got to flip, and this is the decision he's got to make, and this is what he'll be weighing up. Am I better playing week in, week out in the Premier League and having my personality and my potential seen by the rest of the world on the world stage, or do I go and occasionally play for Milan and occasionally be in a Champions League game if I'm lucky, and if other players are out injured, and because there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees he's going to be a first team regular at Milan. If he goes, he's going to have to be patient. So he's got to be patient with the decision he makes, but we've got to be patient as fans, because there's no panic yet. Just because other clubs and the press, and like I said earlier, the certain people in the press are pushing Newcastle to spend money. I've just read an article there by a local press guy who's pushing and pushing and pushing the fact that the Saudi Gulf have paid more money for two golfers than Newcastle United have cost the Saudi people. And yet, why are they not investing money in Newcastle United in the way that they're throwing money hand over fist at the Saudi Gulf? And you're thinking, well, what's that got to do with the price of chips? Absolutely nothing. It's a totally different company, totally different game, a totally different scenario, nothing to do with what we're about. But it was put over in a way more than likely to get the conversation, the dialogue going among the fan base to go, yeah, you're right. They're spending all this money. The Saudis are spending all this money on golf. Why aren't they spending on us? Why haven't they bought Botman yet? Why haven't they bought Ekatiki yet? It's like, this is designed to shake us up. It's not designed for anything else. When they've decided who they want, they'll get the player. And we've like you reiterated once again, we've got the plan, we've got the A, B, C, or D, and if it's not Botman, it'll be someone else, and there'll be a reason why, and we'll just got to work with it, because when it comes to the 6th of August, and that we see the team sheet. I think the fixtures are out on, is it Wednesday or Thursday this week? Next week.
I think so.
And we see the fixtures. We know what we first came. Then we can start looking at. I wonder who's going to be in. And when it gets to the end of July, we'll have a fair idea. And also, we've got 2 great games at home on a Friday and a Saturday against top quality teams, where we'll get to see the entire squad, because Eddie Howe will start with 2 different teams on that weekend. And for any of us, I think did somebody mention that he was going to pay for it to go to Benfica to watch a game last week? I can't remember. I'm sure one of you said you were going to take us for me wedding anniversary. Is that right, Steve? Was it Keith that was going to stump up the takeaway, as a little gift? I never get a chance to see it then. No, seriously, that's that's the way it is. Just call me your chickens, as they say.
Yeah, call me chickens, Keith. It's it is just typical, isn't it, of the social media life that a lot of people live, and people just want to wind their neck in sometimes, because honestly, I'm still coming to terms with the fact that there's a takeover gone through. Neil mentioned the whole Stockholm syndrome thing many times on the show, and I said this to somebody this week. I said I think I'm just about now realizing where we're at. It's taken us a bit of time to adapt, and it's a year ago. Steve Bruce was still in the dugout, Mike Ashley was still in the boardroom, and we were still looking at not spending anything in transfer windows. Suddenly we've had the best great escape ever. Finishing in 11th position. We've got links with players of world, on the world stage. People can quite rightly start talking about dusting their passports off and potentially looking forward to Europe in the near future. So, we need to just get a grip, really, don't we? And just enjoy it. I keep saying it, enjoy it.
I think the problem with all this is the window's been open less than a day. You think the window had been opened 3 years, and I think is had a reoccurrence of an injury that happened 68 days ago. That's normal in kids that's grown. When kids grow, they get injured more, and then they develop and grow into their bodies, and injuries become less. But if you read Twitter, we've got to bin him now. He could be the next Thierry Henry, and he might be 30 million. He might be 130 million in 3 years' time. But let's bin him because he's had another injury. Botman, how do you know Botman hasn't asked for a 20 million sign-on fee? You don't know what's going on. And it proved with Matt Targett for me, because a lot of people thought that Targett wasn't coming. And in typical Twitter style, it was down to his wife. Oh, his wife prefers London. Before long, his wife's sister actually doesn't want him to go. You know what I mean? It's just like next door neighbour's goldfish wants Matt Targett to look after him while he's in London. And then all of a sudden, out the blue, all the people were predicting, putting fact and figures. A lot of the people who's got contacts were saying, Targett is definitely not coming to Newcastle. And then you found out that the manager told Targett before the end of the season that he was going to sign him. So all that's going on. And what I like about that is that we don't know. I like the fact that all the people who know everything were wrong. And I'm not knocking them, because it's a really hard thing to do, to track players. But it's a great thing that our club have got the diligence and got the savvy to bring in someone like Dan Ashworth and let players get deals get done. And for all we know, TK and Botman might be irreversible. They might be so signed on now, and it might just be a case of announcing it when it suits them. So it's just better that we just calm it all down. And when you look at the people that are getting offered, I mean, information I got was they'd support Calvert-Lewin, Tony, Ake, what they call him, and Lloyd Kelly, 4 players. And I'm not being rude or anything, but I would say I think Tony's the best out of them for me. And take them 4 players, and I would say they're not top-end, high-end Premier League players, but they'll quote 50+ million for all 4 players. So if you're getting quoted that kind of money, does it surprise you that they're getting Dan Ashworth to do due diligence and go over and over these contracts with a fine-tooth comb? Because you only need to buy one player that doesn't fit in, or one player that's got an arsehole attitude, and the dressing room will slip because of it. So you've just got to be patient.
I think it's not just the contracts. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. is the personalities of the individuals. I think would be
without
more
doubt.
than ever under scrutiny.
Without
And
doubt.
I think what days of signing people with attitudes that stink are going to disappear pretty quickly. I think they've already proved that they're not going to have their pants taken down because people tried to in January, and it's not going to happen.
We look at players, and like you talk about Almiron, he's just got 2 peaches against South Korea. If you see the second goal, he stands on the right, he comes in on his left foot, he picks a spot and just curls it in the top corner. He did it just like he did that goal at Crystal Palace. When you see them kind of goals, you think to yourself, like just give people a chance. But what we do, we quickly write them off. He's not good enough. He's not good enough. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. And I tongue in cheek say, let's get rid of 16, 17. I think the point is those people's contracts can be up for challenge. But when you're talking about players, I missed out earlier when you were talking about St. Maxim. Steve Hasty rightly says that he's one of his biggest critics. I've been one of his biggest fans just because I don't want to see St. Maximum make a career at one of our competitors. I don't want to see them go to Liverpool or an AC Milan or an Inter Milan or something and become a world beater. I just think that what we'd lose by keeping another year would be next to nothing. We'd still get the same good money for him if we were selling. But for me, what I want to do is give St. Maximum the chance, do what Neil says and put good players with him. And I would like to put somebody with him that's domineering, either a left back or a left midfielder, that would boss him and make him track back. Because I think he'd be that help and support of a team. I think he would give more. He's a fit lad and he'd run the clock. But sometimes when you just run 80 yards of the ball, you can't. But for me, I want to see St. Maxim do it in a black and white shirt. And today I watched a video of a lad called Roger Fernandez. He plays for Braga and he's a right winger. And you talk about Diaby, 60 million, plus. This lad's just been, Ajax has just bid 15 million for him, and it was rejected. He's 16-year-old. I've watched the video. It's like watching St. Maximum, on the right hand side. And to me, that's the kind of players we should be bringing in. We should be, if you've got Fraser and St. Maximum, you should be bringing people like that in. But let the club, let Dan Ashworth, let Eddie Howe. I'm told Eddie Howe's in America at the minute. So let them all come back off holiday and let these deals all happen, because there's no benefit. There's a benefit in getting players in early in terms of getting your squad ready and getting the camaraderie, but there's no benefit in buying the wrong player too early and making a rush. Due diligence is key.
Yeah, lots of comments coming in. Put them up on the screen. I just want to highlight this. I mean, this really gave me flashbacks to the 1990s when I heard what Matt Targett had to say. I hope I can be part of this club playing in Europe. If we can try and do that in the next few seasons, it would be massive achievement. I'm also not going to give up playing for England. That will be a main target going forwards. That's got echoes, Mitch, of John Beresford, Rob Lane, Warren Barton when they came in the 90s. And, the young'uns who watch these podcasts will be getting sick of us going on about those players. But we're on the cusp of having that own set of legends now. And Matty Targett could be one of those who could achieve exactly what he mentions there, European football in a black and white shirt and pulling on the white of England.
It would appear that Eddie Howe's from Kevin Keegan's map of the UK. That shows everybody that Newcastle is closer to London than Middlesbrough. And so, and long may it continue. I think it's a hell of a signing. You're right. The echoes are very, very visible and very tangible, but also the feeling around the place. I said that, and I wrote a piece for Arab News after I came back at Christmas. The feeling around the town. The only thing I could describe, and bearing in mind, when I came back at Christmas and we played Man U, we were second bottom. We were absolutely still in the mire. Yet the feeling, the atmosphere, going around the ground with you guys, going around the city with you lads, meeting everybody, felt like that Keegan revolution time. Exactly. Absolutely. It was such a massive difference to the apathy and drudgery of the time before that had come back. And so if you can feel that coming in from the outside, I think my perspective on it is very much the same. It does feel exactly like that. And those statement like that from Matt Targett is exactly the kind of things that Beresford and Lee and others that came and joined were saying the same thing. We see this as an opportunity to catapult our career forward to places we've never even thought of. And it did. And so as they grew, we grew. And the potential now is phenomenal.
Yeah, it does sound like the goosebumps and hairs on the back of your neck, Steve. Up when you hear something like that coming from a modern day player, something I never thought would see the likes of a game under Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is as though it was uplifted from the Kevin Keegan playbook, wasn't it? I'm running a press conference for you, a press day. We're going to put a release out, whatever, and this is what I want you to say, because this is what I've told you. This is what Newcastle United is all about. It's like he's had to sell. And he's come and he's bought into it, and Keegan was the master at it. We all laugh at the old Rob Lee being told that Newcastle was nearer London than Middlesbrough and all that type of thing. But that's what Kevin could do. He could convince a player of anything. He could convince a player that he would get him into the England team like you do with Andy Cole. He could convince a player like Rob Lee that you'll end up playing for England one day. That's how good you are. He even convinced John Beresford, and he got into the squad. He didn't quite make it, but that's what good managers and good coaches can do. They have that effervescent way of being able to channel energy and enthusiasm into a squad, and that way they get the best out of them. It's brilliant, and to hear Matt Targett come out like that, especially after what some people picked up on Twitter about his wife and about not being happy here, and the North East wasn't for her, and she had to be preferred to shop in Harrods than Phoenix, which was the phrase that was used. I think it was the phrase that you used, Steve, wasn't it? When it was all spinning out and you're going, there's nothing wrong with Phoenix. In fact, you'll probably find you'll have a better time in Phoenix than you would in Harrods, because it'll be slightly cheaper, so you'll get a little bit more value for money. But seriously, this is the nature, and we've got to be careful as fans. I was talking about it to someone yesterday, and they said, "What's it like at Newcastle?" And I said, "Well, the difference with a footballer in any other city, you can go there and you could turn to Botman tomorrow, and you could say, if you came and you could say, you go to Milan and you'll be a professional footballer and you'll be admired, and you'll be idolized, if that's the word you want to use, as most professional footballers. But it would be exactly the same in any other city you went to. Go to Newcastle, and you will be on a pedestal higher than any pedestal you've ever known. You will not be. But we've got to be careful that those players are strong enough to avoid that goldfish bowl mentality that built around the likes of Jermaine Jenas, who said, he just couldn't handle the pressure of the goldfish bowl. A lot of that pressure came from poor performances towards the back end and injuries and things like that. But this is where we have to be careful, with players. And again, this is another aspect of what Eddie Howe's doing. I'm just interested in Keith saying that he had been looking at YouTube of certain players, and me and Jed did exactly the same this week, and we were thinking about Botman and thinking about players that perhaps could be better than Botman, or players that we would bring in if Botman was around. And we looked at a great video of Inacio from Benfica. What an absolutely amazing, and round about the same age, and you hear that again, 40 odd games he's played for the first team there, and he's scored 5 goals, but the performances he's putting in were unbelievable. This is watching on a video. This is where it falls down, however, because we all know, and we've all come across those videos before. And I think every manager in the league has probably got a cupboard full of videos and links in his laptop that have been sent by agents that show how good these people are. And this is where Dan Ashworth makes his money. And this is where Eddie makes his money and Steve Nixon, when they go out and they see these players playing, and then they go, this is not like a video nasty. This kid can play. We're not being flammed here. We've not got an agent who's edited something to make it look good. But this is the nature, I suppose, of the modern game as well, isn't it? The fact that we can see on YouTube 10, 15-minute cameos of players in the same way as the coaches can see, and that builds up the interest. And it's little things like that are exciting me as the close season, because whether he comes or not makes no difference, but it's just good to be able to dabble in and spot someone And then when somebody mentions a name, you go, I've seen that, but I didn't think much of him, because that's the nature of the banter, isn't it, in the pub? But no, I mean, well done, Matt Targett. Wonderful words. And we've said it time and time again. He's a steady 7 out of 10 top pro footballer that we've got there for what some reports said was 12 million, not 15. You know what? Whether it's 12, whether it's 15, whether it's 25, doesn't really matter. You know, we just know we're getting a really good footballer.
Yeah, Keith, fantastic, isn't it? It is a flashback to the 90s.
Yeah, I think it's great. And there was a thread on Twitter today where an Aston Villa fan, it was quite a well-followed thread, put something on, and instead of just accepting that they went for Lucas Dean and if you like, sidetracked Matt Targett, and then he obviously his best form ever with us. The Villa fan just put, now we know why he's gone. They're paying him £190,000 a week. There was an enormous thread of that. You know, half the regular Newcastle fans were on it, and they were just they were torturing this Villa fan. But it's sometimes in adversity, sometimes in defeat, you learn more about people and the place. I learned a lot today when in this sense of defeat. I don't know what that is. That's not in my house. Whoever's.
Mine, I have to keep muting the mic because the door's open, the cat's coming in, I can hear my daughter on the stairs. And this mic picks up everything, I'm afraid.
But so I saw when Isaac Hayden left, and I like reading things like that, because there's a lad's leaving Newcastle, and there must be a right kick in the bollocks to leave your big club. And he's gone to Norwich, who's just gone down. And I wish him well, and I think he's a good, solid pro. I think he did a great job at Newcastle. But I read what he put, and when you read what he put, told you so much. He said, whatever happens, it'll be great at Newcastle. He talked about the club he was leaving, and about the great dressing room, and about whatever happens to him in his future, he knows that Newcastle will do well. And I thought, you know, everything I read and heard from Hayden this week was like listening to somebody that was leaving a job he didn't want to leave, and leaving a place he didn't want to leave, leaving a dressing room he didn't want to leave. And I've heard loads of stuff over this summer from players saying that the Newcastle dressing room at the moment is the best dressing room they've ever played in. I've heard that from multiple sources, and I've never heard that since Keegan was here. I've never heard that statement that Newcastle was a place people want to play. So when you put all these players together, and if you remember back in the day, like, don't underestimate. Laurent Robert wasn't massively famous before he came to Newcastle. Neither was David Ginola. They came here as relatively unknowns, and we made them. But look at what Kamarish is saying now. Kamarish is saying it was a difficult decision, and he did have doubts, but he absolutely loves the players. That's why Paqueta wants to come, because this is the place to come to. And yes, we'll get gazumped by people. Yes, we'll get Champions League defeated by people because we can't give them the cup competitions. But when you've got players like Matt Targett, who's probably in his prime, and you've got other players like Kamarish, you've got Joe Linton's that's come through an ordeal. You know, he got well and truly bruised. And if you look at what Sean Longstaff's come through to get where he is, this is a launch pad for all these players. And whether it's Botman or not, and I looked at that player that Iniacho used to talk about, Steve, he's class. And the one thing being a punter I noticed was he seemed to have a really good turn of pace. And that's what some people say they think Botman's weakness is. So whoever we get, they're not going to buy a Botman and make him his main centre-half if he's not good. And they're not going to have a second and third and fourth replacement lined up. I think we've just got to understand that all these players are saying, guys, your football club's the best place in the world to play the football. We have the best dressing room. And then just let Eddie and them bring the players in to add to that. Because if we do well this year, it'll be about characters. It won't be about, you know, one player who's 100 million. It'll be about having 8, 9, 10 characters that work the knacks off for each other every game.
Yeah, a great thing to be looking forward to, though. This summer is definitely going to be one that we will remember. I am sure of that. As always, we've got plenty to get through. I just don't know where the time goes. 40 minutes in already. It's just bizarre. First section, the day I met. Dear Matt, where we ask you to send in pictures of you meeting famous players or managers from our past or current, and quite a few coming through. Peter Cooper, thank you for your contribution. That is you and Gaza. Cracking photo of that, like you can tell that was taken back in the day in the 90s. Mind some Bobby Dazzlers there, some proper retro Adidas and hats, etc. But thank you for sending that in, mate. This one was from John Brown. He said that he's sent us a selection of photographs. Let's just go through them then. This one, which is him getting presented of Kenny Wharton, and that looks like John Gascoigne on the left as well. You didn't mention him, but it looks as if it could be Gaza's dad in the background. Super Mac, this is onto your family members, of course, which is great. Always good to see Malcolm on these photographs. And then Gaza featuring again. Looks like he was out shopping in Primani there. Definitely in the Metro Centre. Maybe he's popping into the back page to see his sister. This one will go down well with Stu if he's in the chat. Steve Bruce. Looks like the Hilton Hotel or some bar or whatever. Yeah, Brucey. We'll maybe come on to him a little bit later. And this one from Gary Card with General Robert Lee, which is great. So thanks for sending that in, Gary. As always, good to get your photographs. Send them over to me on the different forms of social media I'm on, and I'll give you a shout out on the show. Just want to give a big thank you to everybody who follows NUFC Matters. We still do 7 shows a week, as I often say when we do the ad break, and the monthly stats came in again. And for June, wow, came in for May. Sorry, came up, emailed to us this week. 586 new subscribers, 331,000 total views, and 3.8 million minutes watched. Thank you very much. We're up to 48,500 subscribers now, edging towards that 50,000 mark. So just want to thank everybody who contributes to the show, the lads who are with us tonight, and everybody else, the likes of Pete and Chris who do the Monday show. Obviously, they're having a well-deserved break, but everybody involved who does all the shows throughout the week, thank you for being part of it. Big thanks to Joe as well, who I think he's blossomed in his own show on a Monday with the transfers, and thanks to the guests we've had on. I've got Burnsy coming on Monday, which should be quite interesting. Mouth of the time. We had Sean Casey last week, so we'll just get a few of these Twitter guys on who essentially make a bit of a name for themselves on Twitter, and just gives you a chance to see the person behind the account. I do want to thank Darth Vader, of course, for reaching out on Twitter, because when I put those stats out on Twitter, I got this message via Vince Smith. He says, "Very good, Steve, but when you go to my level of franchise, merch, movies, and so on, then we will talk. Love, Darth Vader." Thank you, Darth, for that. There he is at St. James's Park waving the flag as well. So thank you for passing that on, Vince. Tell Darth I'm asking after him and that I am his father. Okay, next topic of conversation is the new strip. And I'll have a little say on this first, Mitch. I mean, I love it. I think it's great. I like it. I love the style. I love the colours. I love everything about it. I think it's a touch of class. And yeah, I will buy it. I've got to be honest. I also want to congratulate the club on getting it right. And what do I mean by getting it right? I mean, in the past, had we released a strip with Fun 88 on the front, when everyone was expected to be Saudi Airlines or Aramco, Newcastle would have released that strip and said absolutely nothing. But the new owners had the gumption to release the strip, but also in the same breath announced that they'd managed to agree a severance with Fun 88, and that they would be searching new sponsors, and that will be next season. And I think from a PR point of view, that was brilliantly played again by the new owners. I think that they got it right, Mitch, because anyone with a bit of foresight would know bringing the strip out with Fun 88 on, and our fan base on social media would be going, bloody hell, where's the new sponsors? Blah, 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 blah. Now, we did get a bit of that. But in general, this week, something which normally would bubble away on our timeline and become an absolute crisis where the media might have picked up and got an easy story saying Newcastle United fans not happy with new owners, was nipped in the bud straight away. And I thought that was brilliant. So I love the new strip, and I'm not bothered about the sponsors at the moment. And I go with what you're probably going to say, which is the only thing I'm bothered about is who's in the bloody strip.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, it's a simple strip. I like simple strips. I don't like anything over complicated with, fussy little details here and there. I can't be bothered with that stuff. I think it's quite clear now why the initial strips were released with no sponsor. It's quite clear that we're hoping to get a breakaway for this season, but that wasn't to be. Everybody's walked away from the table happy. That's classic Middle East compromise. Everybody walks away with a win. And this is something we go back to the days of talking about geopolitics and negotiating with being sports and everybody being happy. Everybody's walking away from the table feeling like they've got what they wanted. And I think that's a fantastic outcome. And that's very typical of how people in the Gulf do business. I think Castore have come up with some better designs this year. I can see they're getting a little bit of criticism again online for supply and for being out of stock of certain things so quickly and have to overreach themselves too quickly by taking on too much. But a lot of people seem to be going with them at the moment, from the England cricket team to other Premier League clubs. We are obviously seen as their premium brand somewhere down the line. And so they've got to up their game this season. And they've started well with some good designs that people have warmed to quite quickly. I think you're right. And then announcing what the sponsorship situation was at the same time as announcing the strip is a very smart PR move. But isn't this classic? You were talking about the Stockholm Syndrome earlier, Steve. We're locked into this position where the club don't talk, or they do something horrible to it on an international weekend and give it 2 weeks to calm down. And that was all very deliberate. We know it was very deliberate because Derek Lambias told me and Steve that's what they did. And so, we knew when something shit was going to happen, it would be an international weekend, usually the one in October. And by the time the next home game rolled around, everything would have calmed down a little bit and they got away with it again. And so we've now got a club who are trying to be as communicative and open with it as they can be. And yet, on the other side of it, less seems to be leaking out from the club at the moment as well. So they're winning on two fronts. They're being able to conduct certain business the way they should be able to conduct certain business, but they're also then allowing the fans to buy in when they feel something has to be said to explain something to the fans. And again, long may that continue. I think it's a fine line. It's very difficult to get right. They're bound to get things wrong somewhere along the line, and there'll be things that do upset people. But you know what? This has been a really clever move. You're absolutely correct.
Steve, what's your take on the new strip?
We spoke about it midweek, and for me, it's clean. And what I mean by that, it's nice, clean lines. There's no clutter. We haven't got loads of shadow and loads of those sort of shadow imprints that some clubs have gone for in the past. I looked at the Barcelona shirt and I just thought, what an absolutely shocking shirt. What have they done? But Barcelona are historically one of those clubs that can...
I think their league designer was 7 and told to use all the colours.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily need to have stripes, even though we're a striped club, and et cetera, et cetera. We haven't gone down that line. We've gone down a design that's got a little bit of history to it in terms of, I know what people are going on about here, but the shades of the 1974 shirt there with the collar, but it looks updated and modern. There's shades of late 70s, early 80s tucked in there as well. It just looks good. And as I sarcastically said in midweek, but I cannot get away from, all I can see is that number 11 straight down the middle. You know, that what is it with 4s and 11s? And I can see 11s. As well,
Cheeky, Steve, cheeky. Keith, what's your take on the new strip?
I like it. I think it's just, there's not a lot you can do with black and white stripes in reality. And to me, I think if they try to detour away from black and white stripes, that's when you get the griff, because I think people want to just see us turn out black and white stripes. So I think when you talk about designs, I think designs is more left to the other shirts, the two shirts. But going back, you know, my favourite shirt was always the Grandad shirt. So that's always was that, you know, that era of shirts was always the ones I preferred the best. So if you're not going to copy that, then you're pretty much limited on the home shirt. But I think it's clean, I think it's fresh, and it just does its job. What I do like is the fact that everybody and his brother was naming who the sponsors were going to be. And the word that was coming out was that they were in negotiations with sponsors, and you can see why. They've had a pop at them. They've tried to see off the contract. They've succeeded in doing that. They've terminated it early. And what they're doing with a bit of class, they just say, right, crap on, use up for this year. So you know, I'm a wind-up merchant plus a romantic, and so I would like to think when the Saudi green one comes out, I would like to think that that's got round across the middle, or Saudi Airlines. You know, I would like to see a total wind-up on that shirt, because that's the one that I'm excited about getting. But as far as you know, I always buy the home shirt, and you look at it, you think it just does the job. You know, it's. I think if you look at what Sunderland did when they put those really skinny red and white stripes that looked like a deck chair. And I'm not saying it's just a knock at them. I'm just saying the
one that looked like a pick and mix bag.
But when you look at that shirt, I think they did everybody a favour, use the stripes to say this is what happens, mind, if you ever make them too thin. And if you ever do them too thick, you end up with maybe 3 stripes on the front. You know what I mean? So I think you know, I think it's important to leave it as is. So I like it, and I think you've hit it on there, Mr. Wraith, when you say that you know they've gone about it in a classy way. They've announced it, and you know, go back to Matty Targett's transfer, and that's an epitome of what they're doing at the minute. They can tell a bloke at the end of the season, go home, say nothing to anybody, but you're getting signed, and they can go all the way through them weeks, and nobody's got a blinker what's going on. And that's when you know you've got a good football club. That's when that's when there's a bit of class going on upstairs, because they start to keep the cards close to the chest, they keep the powder dry, and they're letting people know when there's a benefit, letting them know. I think it's very good.
Yeah, good stuff. It's something that'll sell, but I agree with you. I think the new away shirt, the green and white one, will be the most popular amongst our fan base. But looking forward to seeing the proper photos for that and that being released. Other good news this week was that the Premier League clubs have unanimously agreed to maintain the current £30 cap on away ticket prices for the next 3 seasons, Mitch. A rare chink of light for Premier League football supporters, and the fact that they've managed to get something right at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think agreeing on a cap is a good thing. I know there's still some people saying 20 is plenty, but they were saying 20 was plenty when I still lived in the UK, and I've been away for nearly 10 years now. So I think when you take into account the cost of inflation and things like that, I think capping it at 30 is probably about right. It means also it takes away, because we're the ones that often get affected by this. Because we were often the fans that were being, your category A game, yeah, that's £57, please. Because they know we'll come in with numbers and they'll sell out, and will always trot down. And some clubs, naming no names, used to love to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And used to milk us as a fan base because they knew we'd turn up, and it wouldn't matter whether it was a 12:30 kick-off on a Saturday or if it was the last kick-off of the weekend and we couldn't get trains home. Nobody gives a monkeys about that, but the clubs used to love to stick with, your category A game, that's, thick end of 60 quid. So I think to agree to limit it in that way, I think is really important. Not for all fans, but especially for our fan base, because we do get the piss taken out with time and time again. So it's quite nice to see we're getting a little bit of protection.
Steve, what's your take on that? It's good news, isn't it, for the supporters early days? It's a good win for the Premier League and good news for us who spend a lot of money going on the road supporting Newcastle. Absolutely.
And you just look at the cost of trains, for example, and the inability to manage to get cheap rail travel. This is just something that will be in place for apparently the next 4 years as well. it came in 30. The 30 limit came in 2017, if I remember rightly. So that'll be 9 years that the price of an away ticket will have been pegged at £30. Yes, we did have the campaign, and I remember going down to Man City with Kevin Miles and quite a number of other lads, and we were pushing for the 20s plenty as a reasonable price, and to have that right across the board. But as Mitch says, inflation, compromise, getting the Premier League to agree anything seems to be difficult. But the very fact that they had their meeting yesterday, and that was one of the wins that came out. I suspect with the Premier League, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's given that meeting yesterday an opportunity to put something out positive, because we're probably struggling for other positivities to put out. It's a disparate group at the moment within the Premier League, and we know that they're all fighting each other. We know that they're all scrambling around. They're all worried about this governance. And I can see that being kicked into touch come October, when they next have their Premier League meeting. I can see that a lot of manoeuvring going on that makes the governance of football situation something that they don't want. They want to run their own game, and now that they're throwing these little things back at the government and saying we're doing X, Y, and Z. Aren't we great? Look, we can govern ourselves. We keep the fans happy. Just push everything else back into the long grass again. But
they couldn't even agree today on what constitutes a leveraged buy-in, for God's sake.
Exactly. How crazy is that? It's not it's a leveraged buyout when it's Burnley, but it's not a leveraged buyout when it's Man U. When we know that they're all leveraged buyouts, then you get the old line, and I heard Simon Jordan trotting it out this morning, that there's nothing wrong with leveraged buyouts, and you can't do anything.
It's market forces.
Yes, it's market forces. This is the way business operates, because all businesses borrow money to enhance their growth potential, etc., etc. And you want to take over another company, you'll go out and borrow the money from somebody else, and that's all that's happening in football. No, it's not. It's at the end of the day, it's lumbering, and it's a sport. And it needs to be viewed in a different way to a business. But the more American owners that you'll get in, the more it's going to be looking at as a business, and the more that at the sharp end you're going to see these sharp activities taking place that are around the edges, going to destroy the moral fabric of clubs moving forward. And I also think, and we spoke about this earlier, Mitch, didn't we? We know of other clubs in the league who have been quite happy to shout their mouth off in recent times in the Premier League, who are now we'll find out in the next few months, are going to be struggling desperately financially, even though there's money swirling around in the Premier League in billions and millions. And there's one in particular, isn't there?
Crystal Palace.
Yes.
Can't we talk about Crystal Palace? I touched on this on Wednesday, Steve.
Yeah,
this is where Midhat has reappeared.
Yes, let's go for Midhat.
Crystal Palace, apparently, they had two of their directors or two of their owners were interested in joining a different consortium attempting to buy Chelsea. How much that must feel for the fans of the club to know that must be fantastic. And apparently, they're not keen. They were keen to invest money in Chelsea, but they're not keen to invest money in
their own club.
In their own club. And apparently Parrish, who's the chairman, is absolutely brassic at the moment. And he's opened talks with our friend Midhat, apparently, to talk about buying a stake in that. Now, that'll go so far, and then the question mark then is will Sheikh Khaled sign the cheque? Because that's what's stopped a number of things down the line. But apparently that's where he's reappeared now, was there's a discussion with Crystal Palace to become some sort of, and it seems to involve one of the funds that Sheikh Khaled is a chairman of over here. So that again would be, in some respects, leverage. It wouldn't be using their own money. It would be using raised funds through a fund. And that sounds very leveraged to me. And that might be why some people are trying to say, well, when is a leveraged buyout not a leveraged buyout? Well, when it's ours. But theirs is. And this is the classic kind of argument you get between football clubs when self-preservation and isolationism becomes key and nobody can't really work together and believe that there's a greater good to work together for. So that's where he's re-emerged apparently. I haven't had a chance to catch up with him directly, but spoken to somebody who knows him very, very well, who we both know very well.
Yeah. I suspect also, Mitch, that the problem with the Premier League had at their meeting was that there are so many new people in the Premier League. Chelsea have only been taken over a fortnight ago. Newcastle are relatively new to around the table, and those guys are starting to get to know each other as well. You've got the new CEO at Manchester United. You'll have, you've no longer got the guys at Burnley. They've dropped out, but we've suddenly got three clubs that have come in and just signed their share certificates to be part of the Premier League. 3 new clubs. So there's a lot of getting to know each other, and that's why probably there wasn't any decision made on anything other than something as simple as let's keep the 30 pounds.
It'll be interesting to see how the relationships reform, because there's now a significant American influence there. And going forward, that was always the driving force behind the Super League cries and changing things to a more closed shop without relegation, etc., and dividing TV money.
Yeah.
You've now got...
That leads into Keith, though, doesn't it? Because at some point we're going to say, Keith, does that extend the cartel?
Yeah.
Here we go. This is what people have been waiting for.
Don't put the 50 pence in Keith. Oh, my God.
The £30 fix that you do will hurt the cartel more than anybody else. I'm against categorising games where you got category A and teams who've done well, you get charged more to watch them. I think all football games are football games, and I think they're predominantly supported by the home team. And I think whichever game you go to watch your team, you should just pay a set fee, and that's it, end of. And you shouldn't dress up anybody else. But the cartel group, let's call them what their name they've given themselves as the Big Six, they will be more reticent to let that £30 stick. They'll be wanting £40 and £50 because that's the mindset they see themselves in. They're not interested in low earning salaries and people who can't afford. All they're interested in is maximising the pot, which brings us on because I was told that this week that the FA have put forward moves for the cartel, whereby they want them to have their fixtures prior to the World Cup changed. So what they're trying to do is get the Cartel 6 to have certain fixtures, allowances in the run of the World Cup. And it's highly illegal. And whether or not they've got time between now and then to challenge it. But the FA, people put the nomination forward, apparently, people have said it wasn't the EPL. But the EPL have got the rights to stop that and say, no, leave our competition alone. Because if you...
It was Southgate who first voiced it. If you go back through...
Yeah. If he voices it, the FA's head of legal should say to one side and say, Gareth, what you're asking for is very risky. And if you were to change the size of some football pitches, or if you were to change the length of some studs and some boots, or if you were to change the fixtures for teams within a chosen group, so if that chosen group is them 6, then it's illegal because you're altering the competition. You're not playing with 20 teams all having the same deal. And if they say I'll say, well, no, you're not, because I'm not in the Big 6, so you're not going to sort my fixtures out or do anything to my fixtures. You can't do anything to the 14, you can't do anything to 6. It's illegal to alter a competition to the benefit or detriment of anybody. Irrelevant if there's a World Cup. That's a separate competition. This is a marketplace. This is a marketplace that charges money, makes money for running a football competition. So if you run a football competition, you've got to run equal for everybody. The minute you don't, you trade anti-competitively. So Gareth Southgate should be took aside and say, Gareth, good idea, I like what you're thinking, but it's anti-competitive. Just don't even go there, son. Because if you do, you'll shit a brick on this whole consortium of teams and you'll smash the competition. And if the EPL weren't voicing it, but I think Southgate put it through, the FA nominated, the FA's head of legal should have took it aside and said, you can't do that. You cannot in any competition where money's involved or there's a marketplace of trading, make anybody different to anybody else. Simple as that.
Good stuff. Good points. Well made as
Tell
always
you-
by the lads.
Tell
Go
you
on, Mitch,
something else
finish
that
off.
come out with that meeting. Just somebody talking about Everton down on the bottom.
Yeah.
I like the little list of things that they also wanted to raise an investigation into. Crowd disturbances, violence on the pitch, attacking opposition players and managers, pitch invasions, knives and objects in the crowd, flares, and away stewarding. Tick all boxes for Everton this season.
Everton, one game. Mate, use me flick knife to cut that lad free, will you? All right, there's your flick knife back there. There's your flick knife back. I didn't need it, son. There's your flick knife back. What?
And they're saying that they want to take action to help, crack down on that. Well, why haven't we taken action this season? Idiots, honestly.
If I had brains, they'd be dangerous. That's what my dad used to say. Okay, here's tweet of the week. Plenty good tweets and a few photographs as well. I did like this one. Sabutio's new player, Carlson, limited edition, just sitting down. Yeah, it's pretty good. That I've got sent that a couple of times. This one from Billy Tree says, a corporate sense of humour. He says, I love it. All of a sudden, I fancy a Domino's. There's a picture of Boris, and then Jonathan at the bottom saying, "I wouldn't trust you lot to deliver a pizza for Domino's." Which, very good, mate. Thanks for tagging us in that, Billy. This one, dear me, Sky Sports News: Matt Targett joins NUFC on a permanent deal. It's Paul Dummett, mate. It's Paul Dummett.
One job.
You had one job, yeah. Poor Alfonso got a bit of stick this week. Two-man went into overdrive with his PDF collection, and now that's what I call. Yeah, well, you can see what it says. A lot of people too much time on their hands. This one was sent to us as well from Des. Lottie put Michael Owen at 9 p.m. every night for the next 8 weeks. Michael Owen had put, going to bed, I can't take the pain any longer, obviously because of his daughter on Love Island. Des put, wonder how long before his daughter pulls a hamstring and is out for 6 weeks. Very good, Des. Very good. I love this one. It's one of my favourite go-to Twitter accounts, 90s football memories. 4:45 on a Saturday in the 90s. And standing outside Dixon's waiting for the football results to come in. If, of course, you weren't at the game, I'll never tire of this pic. Yeah, we all remember those days, and then queuing at Gray's Monument or wherever you used to go and get your copy of the Pink, and then going down to the pub, which didn't open till 7, believe it or not. Yeah, 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. We're talking about strips this week. I just thought that Gavin Haig's photograph of his Sunday best was a belter. He couldn't beat Buckner, apart from the fact that he used to be completely itchy. Got a certain je ne sais quoi about them, but they were just really itchy. Any of you who watched the Jubilee couldn't have failed to be impressed with this young man, of course, who has got he's got the best facial expressions of any royal that we've seen. Which Prince Louis are you today? This one was sent to us this week, and I thought it was really good. But the reason that I've highlighted that is because I was sent this one on Twitter, which was Carlo Ancelotti whenever his team go 2-0 down. What a pose that is, by the way. Absolutely brilliant. Great tweet that. This one as well, Michael Owen watching Love Island tonight. Lots of people pointing that one out, so thanks for everybody who sent that in. This one was from Jimmy Moore. As a kid, I used to watch The Wizard of Oz and wonder how someone could talk if they didn't have a brain. Then I got social media. Thanks, Jimmy.
Nice one, Jimmy.
Fergie and a few other people sent us this. Spot the common theme. This is Steve Bruce at West Brom. West Brom boss Steve Bruce says there's nothing worse than what he experienced at Newcastle United. Then he went on to show Steve Bruce, Aston Villa departure was one of the most unsavoury times in my career. Steve Bruce at Sunderland. Sunderland fans' hatred drove me out. Yeah, we've seen it all before. He just talks baloney, doesn't he, really? And here he is again. He's still playing the victim, said Jacob. I couldn't let it end like that. Bruce on redemption mission after ridicule. Dear me, mate. Just pack it in, Stephen. Just concentrate on what you're doing. This could have been a lookalike, but it's not. All aboard the Toon roller coaster. Sure, the reason that the Queen was beaming on the Jubilee, and that's because she's got a copy of Goal coming out of the handbag. So I thought that was Good bit of editing. This one from James Blunt. After reading what Fesshole had put, my favourite thing to do at gigs is to sing really loud but badly, so the people who film all the songs have their videos ruined. James Blunt, I've been doing this for years.
He's great, isn't he? He's great.
I do like Fesshole, like he's another good one. George Tackey as well. After Matthew McConaughey, who delivered a passionate plea for new gun control legislation in an address at the White House briefing room on Tuesday, has used 19 guns in 11 movies over 25 years. George Takei, Mr. Sulu, of course, of Star Trek, said, "And I've used a deadly phaser many times on screen, even though I'm a non-violent Buddhist. What's your damn point?" I love the fact he goes damn point. This was from a Man City fan. Anton Ferdinand and Darren Lewis on TalkSport disrespecting Eddie Howe's achievements at NUFC whilst bigging up Vieira at Palace. Vieira managed 48 points in 38 games. Howe managed 44 points in 27 games and took Newcastle from down and out to safety. What a pair of clowns. Isn't it nice to see other football club fans coming out with a bit of logic? One of the photos I quite like to select, well done to Wales, qualified for the World Cup. And I did like the fact that the lads had their hats on in the studio. I thought that was brilliant. Pair of bucket hats there, which was good. Rest in peace, Czech Tiote. He's never forgotten amongst our fan base as well. Barcode Vicky stuck this one out. I thought that was lovely. Rest in peace, Daddy. I've seen the photo before, but yeah, it was nice to see the club, as usual, hitting the right mark and paying their respects as well. And always good to see Warren Barton celebrating. The Chronicle posted on this day Warren Barton signed, and Warren simply quote retweeted it by saying, "The best day of my life." He's a top bloke, Warren, as well. Martin Woolwich used the photo in a slightly different way. Prince George looks like he's having Louis on with 5 minutes to go to try and get a winner, while William gives the instructions. It really does look like a Premier League photo. That so well done on that one. And I picked this out on Monday, lads, is just because I love that team. I love that team photograph, and lo and behold, Newcastle have released that Greenhall strip as the retro strip this year. 40 quid on the club website. One of the Greenhall strips. So yeah, really good. Gareth Miller put this, was going to buy this for me tea, but it was too dear. And this one, I had to include this, even though the new kit's out now. Wayne Bennett sent it. Another kit leak, this time from Rita Ora. That was a good one, Wayne. I know you're playing catch up when you're watching this on Saturday. Last couple. This one, Bronwyn put, as much as I absolutely love the bars in Newcastle, I feel like more and more of them are just poser bars. None of them actually adopt the culture of our city. It's canny for a fancy night out, mind, but those types of bars, they're all just the same, just different logos. Scarred for Life replied, "You got the wrong boozers, flower," and posted a photograph of the Black Daughter.
Black Daughter.
But the winner of Tweet of the Week is this one from Dave Tunner. Kirsty Young, when you're covering the Jubilee at 7 o'clock, but have to destroy the Rebel Alliance at 8 o'clock. I knew you would like that one, but I tell you what, I bet you Vince loves it even more. Thanks for your tweets of the week. Keep them coming to me, Mitch, Steve, or Keith. Going slightly off Newcastle with the next topic, lads. It's just this one. And Sport Bible saying that England fans who try and smuggle drugs into Qatar for the World Cup could face the death penalty, Mitch. Now, obviously, you're living in a country which has its own rules and regs. And, you know, if you're caught doing something naughty, you get a bit more time than you would get over here. But I want to just put this a little bit wider as well. I've got massive concerns over this whole cocaine culture in football, and I've seen it in our own fan base where people are, you know, youngsters in particular, going on buses and, you know, getting to the ground and, you know, doing lots of cocaine in the bogs, and, you know, pre-season was ridiculous. Loads of young'uns arrested, but, you know, it's something which needs, I don't know how you stamp it out, but it needs stamping out the game, because it's not a good reflection. And as that piece in Sport Bible said, you know, fans could face death, you know, trying to sneak that into the Qatar World Cup. It's
funny here because they've actually just relaxed the drugs laws here in the UAE, and they've removed it from an imprisonment to just a fine, for provided it's sort of it's a bit vague. When they change the laws here, they're always a little bit vague, but it seems to be basically if they deem it's personal use, you'll get fined. And if it looks like obviously you're a mule, then you'll get a long time in prison. Qatar is a little bit less liberal than here. But what would you expect smuggling drugs in any country? It doesn't making a big song and dance about it. There's a number of World Cups you could have gone to recently that you get the death penalty if you were caught taking drugs into them. So there's nothing new there. From my perspective, there's always been an undercurrent of drug use in and around away trips all the time. Certainly I was going as a teenager and then on. I do think suddenly though, and I know again, being back at Christmas recently, it was really noticeable in some of the pubs around town. It just seemed a lot less covert, and it was a lot more in your face. And again, whether that's changing in social acceptance or changing in the way people are post-COVID, I don't know. But yeah, it just seemed to be more available and more open.
You're about hasty. You're about hasty.
Well, you know what he's like, once you get him started, you cannot stop.
He's swinging on the bars and things like that.
But yeah, it's a tough one because, again, it's something that our government have already started to use, the government in the UK rather, to try and pin on the football fans. That's a football problem. This is a football problem. It's back to the 80s again, isn't it? That we're going to carry the can. But there's a lot said about going to Qatar and what you can and cannot do. But it's just like going to any other country. If you smuggle drugs, I can't think of a country that you wouldn't get, faced with the laws of the land if you were smuggling a shitload of drugs in. And it so happens that Qatar does have a death penalty for certain things. There's still a death penalty here in the UAE. Though the only death penalty you seem to hear about is the one in Saudi from a football perspective. Journalists wake up. It's to me, the one thing I'd say to anybody planning on going to Qatar, one, it's going to be tricky because the infrastructure, I think, is not going to be there. My mate Andy's just done some time over there for work, and he wasn't terribly impressed with what he saw, and he can't see how it's going to be ready. The hotel situation's interesting. It's why they've now suddenly announced these shuttle flights to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, probably to Bahrain and Oman as well, to encourage fans to stay in other Gulf states and then fly in and out for the games. But if you come over here into this part of the region and act a tit, you'll get what's coming to you. It's as simple as that. And they won't apologise for it. But equally, if you want to go to Blackpool and act a tit, you'll get arrested for it there as well. It's just as easy. The responsibility is to represent, if you're coming over for the World Cup, represent your country the way you want your country to represent you. And if you go about your business and behave, what's the problem? There should be no problem.
Steve, it's something, which is a little bit new to us in a lot of ways because, when we went to the match as young'uns, it was, have 10 pints of lager. If you could keep it down, you'd had a good day and you went and sung your heart out for the lads, watched the match. Some people like to have a scrap. Some people just like to have fish and chips and go home. Some people like to go to a nightclub and try and, find a young lady to take home. But I mean, that was what it was all about. But it's, drugs has always been there, but not cocaine and not this like epidemic we seem to have.
No, I think in the last 10 years, like as Mitch said, it seems to have pervaded into the football scene a lot more. a lot more overt than it had been. I remember the Derby games when the police were doing, they had like a meeting between Sunderland fans and Newcastle fans. I remember one particular one that we had over at Gateshead at the Gateshead City Council offices, and that was one of the things that the two football police task forces that they had that liaised with each club were very much keen to discuss and warn fans about that. You know, they were aware, they had the spotters out there. They knew what was going on. They were identifying various coaches at the time where in some instances they knew that youngsters were being themed, basically. They were being forced to buy alcohol on the coaches and having their money they were taken from them. And then they were being steamed for to buy drugs off various people on various coaches as well. And the police were very much saying that they were going to stamp down on it. I don't think they ever did. I don't think they ever got a hand on it. I think the cuts that Northumbria police at that particular time got thrown on them by the government meant that the task groups that they had weren't as prominent on match days. And if you look at St James's Park now, you don't see anywhere near the number of police around the ground, both inside and outside the ground, as you used to. And I think that's possibly because we've seen the proliferation of the fact that everybody wants to get into St James's now and nobody really wants to cause trouble or anything like that. And maybe people have matured. And I know that we have an older fan base than a lot of other clubs because historically people have kept their season tickets or they've passed them on to family members rather than they're just throwing it open onto the market when people change their mind. But it's a massive problem. And to anyone, you know what? To anyone who wants to take drugs to Oman, to Qatar, take them. But don't come crying when you get caught. You know, don't come crying. But you know what?
Well, they'll be able to cry. They'll be dead.
Yeah, well, you know what? Certain people in the press, you can see it. They'll be itching for people to be caught taking drugs so that they can make a big song and dance in the newspapers about how terrible the people in Qatar are. Because look what they've done. Some poor kid's going to get 25 years or life or death penalty. You know, because this is the hypocrisy of the mainstream media as we go forward towards the end of that particular part of the World Cup. They'll be looking for a story to make a story. You can guarantee somebody's going to get caught with it, and you guarantee somebody's going to be made an example of in Qatar. And whether it's British fans, whether it's the Welsh or the English, or whether it's fans from other countries, we can guarantee it will happen. And I've got no sympathy for them, quite frankly. If they get caught, then, you know, and it means they're going to sit there and they're going to get 20 years or life or whatever. Tough. I'm not bothered. Couldn't care less. It's a non-story for me, and I'll not be reading it. I'll be laughing about it.
Keith, your take? That's stern words from Hasty.
The little bit I disagree with you, Steve, is that when you say it's just the young ones. I mean, I know people in the 50s who's had cocaine habits, you know, and have had the money. You know, it's seen as a trendy habit for older people. So as far as cocaine goes, I mean, I've never took it, but I know people who've been heavily dependent on it and didn't want to go for a drink without having coke on them. So, you know, I don't think it's just the kids, because I think a lot of people just want to blame kids and say, it's all the young ones. But I honestly think that cocaine runs right through the 30 age group, the 40 age group, the 50s. I really do. And I think it's a serious problem. There's a guy on the chat called LD, and he lives in Qatar. And I've just been reading with interest what he's put. Because he said, your ordinary Joes will be fine. And as Mitch says, you go to the region, you play by the rules, the ordinary Joes will be fine. He said, it's the idiots who won't be. And he's also pointed out in the chat that you'll need a special card. He said, people who's getting tickets for this, I think it's called a Halo card or something. And you need one of them cards to get into Qatar through the World Cup. And he said, you'll only know that if you buy tickets. So nobody will get into it. So when you're talking about going over, I mean, Christ, when we were kids, your granny will say, your grandma will say, go to the way match, grandma. And she'd go, you drink and I'll bloody murder you. But now it's literally got to that, and printed on a piece of paper. I mean, you can remember what they used to print this side of a pack of fags? You say smoke and damage your health. I mean, it should have said this will take 20% of your life. This will reduce your life by 20%. That's what it should have said. And yet people still smoke today. And how many people do you know has had cancer, and yet people still smoke? And how many people with the illness do? It's just like it'll happen to somebody else. But when you're talking about drugs, you're talking about going to World Cup, you've got to buy them off a dealer. And you take that, you put your little bags away, you decide where you're hiding them. All you remember is you probably won't get 10 or 20 a year. They'll probably just give you an injection. There'll be one person who'll go across there and he'll have the bags for everybody. And if he gets caught, he ain't getting out of jail. And really, we shouldn't worry too much about them people because they can read. They've got to be able to read and know which turnstile to go down. So if they can read that you'll get killed or you'll have your life terminated. But you know what it is? It's them people that sit there and they're dependent on that drug. And what they'll say is, it won't happen to me and I'll not get caught. And they won't do it. They won't kill you. They'll just put you in jail. But the reality is, all bets are off. Personally, if Qatar was in my back garden, run the World Cup, I'd shut the curtains because I'm not excited by it at all. I just don't have any excitement for that particular setup, the way it was set up, the way the stadiums were built, and the way they invest in football. I don't think they're the biggest fans of what we're doing. And for me, they've made the rules. I'd be more frightened of going to the World Cup and having some drugs planted on us than we would be getting caught. But if us four went, we wouldn't be worried. We'd just all go and we'd have no drugs, so we wouldn't worry about it. And LD in the chat saying, it's only the idiots that's going to get caught. And you're right, Steve Hasty. One idiot will get caught. One idiot will be off his tits with cocaine, and you'll be able to spot him from 50 yards away that he's blown out his head. He'll have eyeballs like the black ball on the snooker table, and you'll just be able to see from miles back what he's on. And they'll get caught. There'll be trackers. There'll be people suss them out, and they'll get done. And you're right, Steve. Good enough for them if that's what they want to do. If they want to ignore anything and they can't just leave it for a week or so, then they know the rules.
Yeah, they know the rules. That is certainly true. They've been warned. So let's see how that pans out at the back end of the year. Big shout out to our sponsor, Spider Miner. Worldwide coverage from Gareth, Nathan and the lads. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and a Gardener Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.gohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and to Cleekai. Meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play and clearrun.game. Thanks also to Media Arts for all the video help. And thanks to you all for subscribing. Big subscriber numbers this month. Please, if you aren't subscribing yet, then hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast. Usually goes up 24 hours after the YouTube show has finished on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and on the rest. If you want to become a member, you've still got a couple of minutes to go to join the membership and get involved in the draw. You get a pen, a cup, a membership card, and a scarf. It's a one-off payment. To do that, go to the website and look for membership, or put your smartphone over the QR code and you can scan to take you straight to membership pack. And you will be in the monthly draw, which I think is coming up very, very soon. And don't forget as well, if you're a subscriber, then you can get a free car sticker by emailing John at nufcmatters.com. And don't forget as well, we also support the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the website where you can go and make a virtual donation. Very important, with there being no home games at the moment. The food bank still need your money. The end of season due is upon us, 24th of June, Friday. Doors at 7 o'clock. Tickets £12 and £15 at Shearer's Bar. Mick Lowe's and Andy Griffin giving the entertainment. You can get your tickets for that from nufcmatters.com. And I think we've sold the ball out. So that is going to get drawn tonight. We will be announcing the winner very, very soon. And don't forget, if you want to come along tomorrow, the Craze Gangsters Behind Bars screening in aid of the St. Bede's Palliative Unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in memory of my mother. There's a few tickets left. Email John at nufcmatters.com and you can have some freebies. Big thanks to Keith. He's bought some today just as a way of a donation. Steve Hasty, I think, might have 1 or 2 left, and John certainly has. I think it was 8 or 9 left from John. But please get along if you can. It's going to be quite a good day, quite a good screening. Screening starts 12:30. We'll be finished round about the 2:30 mark. So if you want something to do tomorrow afternoon, email John at nufcmatters.com and he will be able to sort you out with a couple of free tickets. Okay, as always, we like to have a laugh on here, and Elliot is the man to provide it. Thanks, Elliot, for this one. So I dropped a tenner today and chased it for miles. I never caught it, but at least I had a good run for me money.
Terrible.
Good stuff.
Terrible.
Good stuff. It is terrible, yeah. Okay. I'm going to pop into a couple of the questions because I did notice right at the start we were getting inundated with questions. A couple of quick fire ones, I guess. What's happening with the Derby County takeover? Anybody know?
Kirshner's been given until, is it 5 p.m. today?
Yeah.
To prove he had the funds, and I don't think he will. And it looks like it's going to collapse.
It's not going to happen. It's going to collapse.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, there's the answer to that one. Quite sensible. Andy Davies says, does the Ekitike injury now preclude him from Newcastle's plans? What do you think, guys? Do you think that Newcastle will wait to see? No. Okay. And D as well, that was another one. What are the Amigos' opinions and reports? Ekitike has pulled his hamstring last night. Is he a liability? It's not something really covered. I mean, he's a young player, isn't he? He's played a full season. He has had a bit of, he's played a season, but he's had a bit of injuries. Should we be concerned with that, do you think?
It might change the dynamics of the deal, but it won't necessarily change our interest in the player.
Yeah.
But it may flag something that we need to investigate. Because remember, medicals are subjective. They're not yes and no. They're not binary answers. And if you want to think about one, think about John Beresford. We've talked about him already. Should have gone to Liverpool. Liverpool didn't like what they saw on the medical. Wouldn't sign him. If you listen to John, how John tells it, basically Keegan told him he'd never fail our medical in a million years. But it depends on, it's a balance of risk. It's not a binary yes or no. And therefore, it's something that would flag in the medical, and it's something we'd have to take into account, and it might skew the deal. To be honest with you, it might skew the deal in our favour. Yeah. So I don't think it would make us pull out necessarily, but it might change some of the terms.
It can also have a massive impact on the insurance. And that's the key. It's nothing to do with anything other than, well, what about the insurance policy? Oh, right, well, we need a clause written in for that. It says it doesn't or does get paid out if it happens to be that an injury means that a player's out for a certain period of time. Can you claim that on insurance? If it's something major, is it going to be a career-threatening injury? Well, this isn't. It's just a hamstring. It's just a case of decent treatment. We haven't even heard whether or not whether it's a severe, whether it's a tear, whether it's a pull, or whether it's just
the brief investigation I did on it, when I had 5 minutes this afternoon, was there's a suggestion from the French press that he didn't follow the rehab program properly, coming back from the initial injury.
The first injury is only 68 days away, so that's just 8 days beyond 2 months. I mean, really, if you've got hamstring injury, there's some, I'm not going to use the word neglect, but there's some oversight that you put a player back in and gets injured with the same thing again. I mean, you've seen with like Wilson and them, you're very careful when you put them in and what you get them to do. A lot of people are begging Wilson and Trippier back. And if we'd been in the relegation position, we'd have had to do that. But with Eddie,
I saw something of this at one of the FIFA conferences I was at.
Yeah.
That's something that Pep Guardiola helped develop. They've got some machine that can stimulate a muscle and see how it recovers, and it tells you basically whether there's still potential for that muscle to get injured or some remaining unhealed tissue in the muscle. And it's more accurate than a player and a doctor looking at the injury saying, does it feel okay?
Yeah.
And apparently Guardiola relies on this machine that he's helped develop rather than saying to the player, do you feel good to play? If that machine flags up a problem, the player doesn't play. It's as simple as that. And it's things like that we need to be invested in for our medical team to get to the best platinum standard we can get our medical team to.
Yeah, thankfully we've moved on from the days of the bloke up in Northumberland who, if you went to see him because you had a hamstring injury, you would just rub a cold bottle of brown ale up and down the back of your hamstring for 10 minutes, and then when he was finished, he would crack the bottle open and drink what was left in the bottle. So those days, thankfully, have long gone, and thankfully Newcastle's medical team have advanced that little bit more as well. So it's one of those things that player, every injury is different. Every person's physicality is different, and every physio will know that they'll have a different treatment plan for each player depending on what they know about them. And he's only a young lad anyway. A lot of his skill is to do with sort of straight off dynamic with his pace. And that means the rehab will be a slightly different one to what it would have been if it was a central defender or a midfield player who's constantly moving, but at a steady pace. He's a dynamic push-off injury. So that's gonna really, really work on what the rehab situation is going to be. And I think that's what Al Walid was certain to when he was talking about it yesterday.
I think he mustn't be using Fiery Jack, because if you had Fiery Jack, that would have sorted him out. There's nobody ever didn't get fixed with Fiery Jack, because you're that frightened to put it on. If you ever scratch your balls after you use it on your legs, you knew about that as well. But I think with Eddie, I think he's a very leggy player, and people describe him. I've got a contact in range, and he describes him as being the kind of build of like the Thierry Henry build, that kind of thing. And what it is that age. I mean, we're talking under 21s here. We're not even talking about the French main team. The lad's gone in. He's had an injury within 2 months of the first one, so there's got to be some oversight, and they've rushed him back for that. And people have got to be strong enough to say, you're not going on, you won't play, because, and you know it yourself, at international level, they'll take a risk that a club wouldn't take, which is where Neil comes from. They'll say, if the club have got X, Y, and Z, then they won't play you. But when they go on international duty, there's a big debate about they'll just push them on because it's not really their player for the rest of the season. But with Eddie Kay, they said he's still in the lad in Reims, he's still in a big growth spurt, and he's still growing and filling out with his body. So, this happens with kids. It happens with young boxers get injured much more frequently than older boxers, because they're getting these growth spells. But in football, and like Steve Hasty said, he does a lot of stretching and a lot of turning. He's dipping his shoulder and dropping it. There's a lot of spring off his ankles and off his muscles. And hamstring, it's the first and biggest risk for that kind of acceleration. So I'm not surprised. But do you stop wanting him? Do you shite? You just sit there and say we're just gonna have to look after him better.
Yeah. Okay. Last 20 minutes, and we've got a few of these. Yes, Tune Lookalike Albert was an absolute overdrive this week. Dear me, out. So I've had to cut Albert in and out. But there is some absolute belters as well. So we've actually got some really good ones. Okay, thanks to Sports Neglect for this. Daniela Westbrook set to play Les Dawson. Thanks for that.
I think Les Dawson's better looking.
The Mags sent us this one. He says, I thought you might like this, Steve. He says, on this day in 1964, the Beatles were in the recording studio recording A Hard Day's Night, which is, very good. Very good. I got sent this one, and I can't remember who sent us it, but they said, who does this remind you of?
Oh, we know where this is going.
You know what? Rita, Sue, and Bob too.
Oh, class. Quality. What a great film that is, mate.
Very good. Apologies to whoever was who sent us that. They sent us it as 2 separate photos, but that was great. Joe Hop sent us this. Had to submit this for lookalike. You think I got all the 3 Amigos here. So there's me on the end, there's Mitch in the middle, and Steve Hasty at the end. Sue Pollard. We've had that before. This one's from Tom, I think. Brad Friedel looks like Bruce Willis. Little bit, just a little bit. This one, Harry Kane and Ryan Gosling.
I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for them, Tom. This one was from Steve Hasty. Just had a lovely cup of tea with this fella. No go and enjoy the platinum party at the Palace, which was good. So Steve's shown that he can poke fun at himself with his own lookalikes, which is good. Daddy Bill Salmon said this. He just said, Albert, off you go. You know what to do. And he sent this picture of hair flick. And Albert didn't take much awakening, did he? And put me and Steve Hasty together with Steve Hasty in the picture in the background. He went, just for you. Rachel found it funny. Albert, but nobody puts Hasty in the corner. Okay, see, we've got off to a mild start here. Then Albert says, the 2 Steves rocking it up at the Jubilee party.
That's good.
Yeah, Steve actually enjoyed that one. Legacy Magpie late to the party with this one, but Margaret Taylor, Steve Hasty look like he's celebrating the Jubilee with good friend Keith Patterson.
Which one's me?
That's you on the left when you had hair.
With teeth. I've still got my teeth.
Andy, thanks for this one. Steve McQueen and Kieran Trippier. Yeah, it's a good one, mate. Thank you. And this one from Jimmy Moore, another great actor who wasted his life on drugs and alcohol. He says, 2 lookalike Steve, somewhat messages, stay away from drugs. Thanks, Jimmy. 2 great little inputs from you this week. I love this one from Sooty. 2 lookalike Jack Charlton and Wally Batty on Last of the Summer Wine. I think Jack would have saw the funny side with that one. Yeah. Albert's lookalike, Keith Patterson, and I've got no idea where this is coming from. I think it's because of your thing that you had at the back.
I was sat in a hotel room, and that was on the picture on the back wall. So that can sit maximum.
Oh, God. He's off his rocker. Rocky Toon, young Pardew and Joey Essex.
Yeah, wow.
It looks like he's put lipstick on Pardew there.
Probably has.
But yeah, that was weird. This one.
No, it surprises weird.
Amber Heard and Amber Turd from Iceman.
Is this sounding like you know?
It sounds like it. Look at likey. Neville Southall.
Neville Southall, aye.
And Stan Ogden.
Stan Ogden, Coronation Street.
That's brilliant. I really did
like that. Neville now, isn't he? Aye.
He is, aye. That was Steve Hasty's there. Just so you know, Paddington and the Queen, which was brilliant, Steve. Thanks for that. This one, Sooty sent this one. Late actor Marty Feldman and ex-Arsenal player Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, the eyes. In the eyes.
What a bloke to get compared to. Oh.
It's all in the eyes. This one was from Liam Weaver on Instagram. 2 lookalike for next week. Zordon from Power Rangers is a ringer for Keith. Keith. Just a fat face and a glass. And this one again was Albert's. Now we're talking Pretty Woman, lads. Amanda and Amir Dad, he'd sent us that. See what I mean? I've had to cut Albert in different sections. Hayden put this one. 2 lookalike Jacob. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. And Sean Bean. Yeah, that's good. Similar smiles anyway. Different hairstyles, but similar smiles. This one was sent in from South Shields Mad Kenny Ranson. Is it me or does this 1989 Chronicle seller, I remember him, have a hint of Tim Healy in him? Yeah, he did. Nice. Yeah, very, very much so. He used to stand outside Eldon Square up the Northumberland Street entrance. Then we get Albert, full effect. Some lookalikes for you. Oh, this is for Duncan, sorry. Some lookalikes for you, Steve. I'm sure you know who they look like. So this one, thanks. This is from Duncan. And then Albert chips in. Albert and Wayne Bennett chips in. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Honestly. Oh, God.
There's crooks now. It's like crooks. Christ almighty.
Not to be
Crook meet
outdone.
London Zoo.
Not to be outdone. Albert then returns. Who are these famous film stars?
Oh,
Anybody know?
Christ. Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe Hasty.
Shirley Monroe.
Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple. Oh my God! Almighty. What a spooky face, whoever it is.
I can't even remember who that was, but anyway, Albert, thank you, mate, for giving us such a laugh. Duncan and Wayne as well. Getting
One of the Three Stooges, isn't it?
Then he puts my face on top of Steve's for some reason, a brother from another mother.
Christ.
This one from Dan Hasty. It says Alan McKenzie. I don't know who Dan Hasty is, but Desperate Dan, is it? I'm going to. And this one, Alan McKenzie bumped into this fella in tune last night. He's just put poor Steve Hasty's hair just fits anybody these days. This again from Albert, KP and Steve H. Not a skid mark in sight. He put. This one from Colin Wilson. I don't know Mara, but he scrubs up well. Dick Emery now. Dick Emery. I told you, people went mad this week, Steve. We'll finish off on you with a couple of these. Sam Tipper says, looks like Steve Hasty is happy with the new kit. This one was from somebody, Steve on Instagram. First day of the transfer window and Steve Hasty is up all night following the rumours.
That's true, that is true, actually.
This one from Sam again. Great to see Steve Hasty on Sky Sports.
Christ almighty.
And finally on Steve this week, this is definitely the last one on Steve, was today a new tune. Curly John from Dunstan is me granddad. He looks like Steve Hasty.
That bloke, they took a photograph of that bloke on the right, walking up the metro stairs in Newcastle Day, and this bloke came on Twitter and said, "That's me granddad." Well, we all start laughing. And the next thing is he took a front picture of his granddad and got on a Hasty. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Curly
Okay.
John.
So we're into the serious end now. Some really good ones from Sooty. Two look like Bobby Robson and actor John Partridge. Very good, that, mate. Very good. Did like that one. This one, we had that one already. This one, Joey Essex and Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
I can see it with the hair. I see where you're going with that one. This one, separated in birth. I don't know who that bloke is, but it's just because he's got glasses on. It's Joe. Sports Trader, thank you. Give them a follow on Twitter. Simon Jordan and Polly off the bill. And this one was from Albert. It's nice to see Ian Mearns leading the choir at the Queen's service at St Paul's today. Well done to Ian Mearns singing the Bladen Races in Parliament this week as well. I've retweeted it, and I know the lads have as well. Have a look. Thanks to Neil. Spot the difference, Mr. Potato Head and me. Didn't make the top four, that, mate. No wonder, because I'm in control of what does. This one from Sooty. Ben Jacobs and Stephen Blakely of Heartbeat. Needs the glasses, I think. Needs the glasses. Yeah. Top two, then. Miss Blades is back in contention, which is number 2. Holly Blades and Katie Wicks, a.k.a. Daisy, from Not Going Out. Yeah. Thank you for that one, Sooty. Yeah. And the winner this week was a winner by a country mile. Eddie Hall and the True Geordie. Former world's strongest man and one of the best podcasters Who's a Geordie from the northeast? But that is your tune lookalikes. They've already started coming in for next week. So there's already people getting off to a very early start. So please, get them over to me and Steve, Mitch and Keith, and we will have a laugh again next week. Okay. Don't forget the draw for the season ticket takes place next week. It'll be on next Friday's show, or a cash equivalent, which is £1,000. So become a member. Make sure you join using the website NUFC membership. You've got to pay £25 to be in the draw for that season ticket. Tonight we're giving away the 260 dinner hand signed T-shirt and mug gift set packs signed by Alan Shearer. You can buy them at nufcmatters.com. But the winner, I know he's still laughing. The winner has to come from this in the chat. 28th of November 1960. Born in the Felon. 62 England caps. Tonight's clue. The player suggested in previous clues had a single in the chart in 1987. What was the highest position it reached? Answers now in the chat. John will pick out a winner, and you will be the lucky winner of that Shearer box. And the winner of the ball, the latest Alan Shearer ball, has just been drawn by John as well. And the winner of that is Nicola Banner. So Nicola Banner, you are the proud owner of a Shearer ball. John will get in touch with you as well. I'll stick a tweet out and stick it on Facebook, etc. But well done to Nicola Banner. You are the winner of the Alan Shearer ball. We will have another one of those to go up over the next couple of weeks. And has anyone got it? Yeah. Well, just let me know as soon as you do, John, as far as the answer. Paul Gallant says, superb fun, awesome, my jaw is hurting. So the lookalikes is definitely one of the most popular sections that we've got on this show. No pictures of dogs tonight. I missed that one, Keith. That was your comment, but plenty of pictures of dogs. Any news on the sponsors, Mitch?
Nothing to update on. I mean, I think we've covered it pretty much in terms of what was trying to be done. I think we find to be innovative in other ways going forward, and there's a bigger plan in mind. We just have to sit tight.
And this one was from 100% Mags. Is there any truth in Sean Casey's tweet about Leon? There was something out there about new owners and about Paqueta potentially coming to Newcastle.
Look, like I've said, I think this transfer window will be flexible, and if a deal suddenly comes to the table that makes sense, that they're happy with, they'll do the deal. It's as simple as that. So I think if things have changed with Leon and Paqueta and they're desperate for a bit of cash and there may be a deal to be done, if he's on the radar, if he's on Howe's radar and it's something that they think would enhance the team, they'll do it.
Okay. Congratulations to George Mitchell. He's won the latest Food Bank T-shirt, the St. Peter Beardsley one, with a top bid of £70. So thanks to him. And we do have a new T-shirt up for grabs. I've just stuck it up on my Twitter account, and it is a signed Bruno T-shirt. So that will be drawn next week. Get your bids in at Steve Wraith. Give us a follow on Twitter. And if you place your bid underneath, I think it's already at £100, that one. But get your bid underneath. All proceeds for that, of course, go to the food bank. And as I am going out tonight, I am doing the Compairs job for the Heel and Toe event. And I am going to be interviewing Paul Merson tonight. Any questions for him, lads?
Question for
Paul Merson. Anyone in the chat? I've already got why do you hate Newcastle written down.
Yeah. What I'd like to ask him is, how do you propose to get in and out of Qatar untouched?
Fantastic. Anybody else?
I was going to ask, like, what was the quietest night he ever had?
What was the quietest night you ever had?
Other question: is it right that Arsenal stopped you taking throw-ins because you couldn't get past the white lines?
Oh God, dear me, he'll walk out. Well done, Rachel Lilly. You are the proud winner of the Shearer box. You got it right, and I think I didn't see the answer. I'm not sure what it was, but well done. You have won that, so thanks, Rachel. Well done.
That was 12.
I don't know. I've got no idea. Last couple of questions. Roger Cook. Yeah, this is another one that's that was earlier on. Any truth in Gizu? He'd be an improvement. I've no idea of his salary now with expectations thereafter. I don't think our model would cover. I think you've answered your own question, Roger. But yeah, I think we've just said, haven't we, really, the theme of the programme has been essentially let's just wait and see, hasn't it?
Yeah, I
think he's a real historical figure, but I don't think he's the Son of God. Oh, sorry, it's wrong Jesus.
Wrong Jesus, yeah. The word on the real Jesus is that apparently he wants to go to Madrid, doesn't he? Although Arsenal have been pushing, Arsenal seem to think they had a deal to get him done, but he wants to move to Spain. That's what I've heard. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I could see him fitting in at Madrid more than he would fit in at Arsenal.
Yeah,
I can't understand why Arsenal would want to go for someone like Jesus when they've got him there, who, you know, for me is an excellent prospect, and you know, yes, he might be shouting for ridiculous amount of money, but it just doesn't. I just don't understand what Arsenal are doing at the moment. You know, yes, they've just got rid of Aubameyang at the start of the season. Now they've got rid of the other striker. But they don't seem to be making waves in the transfer market. So I think this is where it's going to be a very, very interesting transfer window. It's as much to see what the other top clubs do as what we do, because I think they're all going to cut each other's throats.
Yeah, me too. Jack Sparrow, yes, I am looking forward to it. I've just watched the weigh-in this afternoon, mate. Looked in great shape as well, mate. So it should be really, really, really good, mate. There's lots of good things happening in boxing. There's some things I don't agree with as well, but yeah, well done. Excellent stuff. Look forward to that. Lads, been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to the moderators. It is George Mitchell tomorrow morning because I've got a busy day tomorrow, so I won't be going live. George Mitchell takes us through the next episode of Those Were the Days, so please tune in to that. And then there's a true crime podcast which follows on later tomorrow night. But thanks for everyone for tuning in. Mitch, Steve, Keith, have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you next week, chaps.
Yep.
Cheers everyone.
Take care, Keith.
See you later. Take care.